I stared in horror at the messages on the screen in front of me. They detailed my every coming and going for the last, 3 weeks. The personalized notes were what really made the situation creepy. Or, well, more creepy. The blurry photos of me were already stalker level. But the notes, God, the notes. I sat back, running my hands through my hair. I read aloud to my dark living room, my voice sounding more hollow in the silence. She likes the dark roast mocha frap, one shot, unless she's having a bad day, then it's an Americano with whipped cream. Her eyes sparkle when she picks the coffee up, as if it were her one joy in life. The way her lips caress the side of the cup sends shivers down a man's spine. It'll be beautiful to see her bleeding out from the gunshot wound. Or perhaps hit by a car. I can never decide. Her fate should be poetic, befitting one so beautiful. Crap, that's all I had to say. Crap. What the hell do I do now? I scrolled through post after post about the beautiful raven of her hair and her scarlet lips. Pictures upon pictures were posted, each with more details about me than my family members knew. What I liked and disliked. How I looked at people. The stalker had even found out who I was physically attracted to, Lord only knows how. My head started to buzz a bit, adrenaline saying a brief hello. I grabbed my huge sweater, but it didn't feel right anymore. They already knew about my comfort sweater. It wasn't private anymore. Private hell, maybe. At the bottom of the series of posts was a short one, with series of pictures of me looking about frantically. The little notes captioned each of them. She realizes in watching her that someone else pulls the strings of destiny. She's more adorable when she's scared, I think. Perhaps I should have put her in a horror book. She'd do well. A calm head under pressure. One more post loaded. Hi, Amber. Nice to finally talk. I looked around at my unshuttered window and quickly pulled the curtains down. Another image loaded. Me, from the perspective of the bathroom door. My head whipped around, but no one was there. She frantically searched the house for something, but was soon to realize I didn't want to be found. The author, you see, does like to preserve some anonymity in his story, even whilst baring his heart. And I especially do not appreciate being vulnerable. Neither did Amber. Her ruby lips parted a fraction, and her eyes narrowed as she looked. But nothing. Nothing in the bathroom, no one in the living room, not anybody in the bedroom. Simply me, the narrator. I slumped against the desk. Why me? The computer loaded a moment. She cried out in desperation, why? Why would you choose me? The answer was simple. She was the protagonist. My protagonist. For years I'd heard about the dark web, a place that really existed more in fantasy than reality. Where was it? How do I get there? Is it like AOL? But I never really gave it much thought, until one day I quite unintentionally stumbled upon it, and what I found is nothing short of horrifying. Most of what I had seen, while violent, wasn't anything outside of what you could find on the normal internet, how to make homemade bombs, online fraud hacks, etc. That was until I stumbled on a chat forum with no name, just an acronym, TOTGA. I enjoy puzzles, so naturally I decided to scroll to at least figure out what the acronym stood for, and not a second goes by that I don't regret my curiosity in that moment. I began to read story after story about these elaborate plots to kidnap, torture, and kill innocent victims only to be thwarted by a last-minute change of plans by the victim, an unsuspecting bystander interrupting them, or worse, them catching on and spooking the perp. The genuine rage and anger I read was truly unsettling. These people truly wanted to inflict harm on these victims and were truly lamenting the fact that they failed. But the worst part is, to ease their pain they would then detail the accounts of the times they succeeded as some type of morbid catharsis. That's when I figured it out. What the acronym stood for, the one that got away. It was repulsive to me that they would take a phrase reserved for lost love and twist it in this way. I decided I'd had enough and was just about to click away when the title of the next post caught my eye. My first time. How am I doing so far? By user RANGGYU1987. I know I said I was done, but I couldn't resist. So I started reading. Ever since I was a kid I felt off, different. I had these urges to cause harm. I knew it was wrong, but I just couldn't seem to shake them. I started small, ants with a magnifying glass, grasshoppers under my shoe, birds with my BB gun. But none of it seemed to scratch the itch. I'll spare you the details of the small and large game over the years, but I'm finally ready, I think, to do the big one. I knew exactly what he was talking about. Murder. This guy was finally ready to open Pandora's box. In the moment I couldn't even explain the mix of emotions I felt. I was angry and disturbed, but a part of me wanted to help this guy, but I knew there was nothing I could do. Nothing except to keep reading. And so that's what I did. He went on to talk about his plan for what he was going to do to the victim, how he would dispose of the body. All things I wish I hadn't read, but then he started talking about his victim and his victim's habits, patterns, and routines. This is when my blood ran cold. Initially he could have been describing any guy in his late 20 seconds to early 30 seconds, but then they started getting more specific. And as they did I couldn't help but see the similarities between myself and the victim. Every morning he leaves his apartment at 7:30 and goes around the corner to get his Starbucks, venti dark roast, black. I leave my apartment at 7:30 and grab that exact same order from my local Bucks. Then walks about a mile to catch the train. There's a stop closer, but for whatever reason he takes the next one. So my ex and I used to ride the train together because our firms were both in the same building and the stop was just outside her place. After we broke up though, I told her I'd get on at the next stop to avoid what level of awkwardness we could, since it was already bad enough we worked in the same building. He's on the train for 7 stops. I've never counted, but yeah, I think I'm on the train for 7 stops. His office building is roughly a half mile from the stop. My firm is a half mile from the train. But here's where my plan hits a snag that I could use your help with. My heart stops in my chest. Some days he leaves the office and heads to the train to the left, but then some days he takes a right, walks about 3 blocks, waits for about 10 minutes outside this pizza joint, and then gets in a random vehicle. Same vehicle every time, a gray Honda Accord. I can't follow him any further on these days, and he never comes back home at the same time, and it's not in any discernible pattern of when he does this. Please help. I don't want him to be my TOTGA. So what I haven't shared with you out of shame more than anything is why my girlfriend and I broke up. We hit a rough patch a few months back, and a girl I had previously dated noticed and inserted herself back into my life. I fell for it. My GF at the time found out, and that's that. Except I'm still seeing her, and to hide my shame when we hang out to avoid my ex seeing her pick me up, I have her pick me up a few blocks from my building, in her gray Honda Accord. I'm full on losing my mind, but from everything I've read, all these guys have seemed to get spooked when the victim catches on. So going for the Hail Mary, I decide to create a login and respond. This is some great detective work, RANGGYU1987, but I've got news for you. You may have been following me, but I've found you. You're caught. I'm not going to stop at Starbucks anymore. I'm going to take a different stop every time. And that Accord, well, trust me, you'll never be seeing that car again. And if I ever have one hair on the back on my neck stand up, I promise I'll call the cops. It's been 9 days since his response and I still haven't slept. Dear Connor, I'm never gonna give you up. Always gonna chase you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. The things I'm gonna do will make you cry. You're gonna wanna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie. I can't wait to hurt you.